All right, so let's just kind of get started quick. I got a doctor's appointment in a few hours. I got a mole on my neck that I got to get checked out. It's getting old. That's what getting old means. You have to start having parts of your body checked out that have always been there. Anyway, I found this. This is kind of interesting. Or someone might have sent it to me in the Discord. I don't remember. But this is Critical Drinker. You guys don't know. He's a pretty interesting content creator. I used to watch him like a lot more a couple of years ago before I did YouTube. And he still seems like a pretty nice guy. He's pretty anti-SJW when it comes to a lot of movies, which is good and bad. You know, there can be good parts of it, of more inclusivity. But sometimes it does feel like it's being forced. So it's kind of annoying. That being said, he talked to Ben Shapiro about Snow White because they got Brett Cooper doing Snow White. What's going on with Snow White? An interview with Ben Shapiro. My understanding is the Snow White movies decided to make another shift, and they decided to make dwarves again, but they're CGI. It's like, why not just use actual like dwarves or little people? They're both politically correct, I believe. You know, even if they're just voice actors, like, wouldn't it make sense? I don't know. It feels like something weird's going on here. It's like it's interesting how we'll be told we need to be inclusive, where you'll fire actors that aren't black if they're doing a role of a black person, like in Family Guy, which I get that, and then hiring a black voice actor, and that makes sense. But then you won't do it for little people. I don't know. Anyway, let's get this conversation going.
Now, most of you are probably aware that in the next year or two, we could very well be looking at a Snow White versus Snow White face-off. One of those movies is being made by Disney and stars everyone's
I just don't get the whole they're making them doors.
favorite actress, Rachel Zegler, and the other is being made by the Daily Wire in direct competition. Like most of you...
Like, in all honesty, it's a funny meme, but it's probably not going to be as good. Let's just be honest. It's probably not going to be as it's probably just not going to be as good as the other one, the Disney one. Only because Disney's made more. I'm not saying it's going to be good. I think they're both going to be a dumpster fire. I just have lower expectations for the Daily Wire one.
I had no real idea what the thinking behind this movie was, so I decided I might as well ask the guy behind it, and he agreed to have a chat with me. So, well, this is my interview with Ben Shapiro. Enjoy.
So silly.
What is this movie all about? Like,
dude, what is going on here? You really got the mic audio messed up?
What started it off? Where did you get the first idea for it? And what are you hoping to accomplish with this one?
So we got the idea for it literally the day that Rachel Zegler did an interview in which she said that she hated the original Snow White and wanted to rip the guts out of it. And then Disney released those...
You know, I remember I listened to that too, and that's how it sounded. But like, I'm starting to think, like, is that what actually happened? Did she express that she hated it, or was she just annoying in the way that she talked about it? Like, it just sounds like she was like, oh, it's gonna be different. There's going to be, this isn't like 19 whatever anymore. The story's going to be a little more updated. It's not going to be as much about a woman who finds love. It's going to be about trying to adhere to the expectations of her father. I think it's the delivery from the person that was the worst if you re-listen to it. But it comes off as like really cynical and like, oh, who cares? Like, love is stupid, which is weird because people like love, but
ridiculous cast photos.
Oh, they didn't fire. Okay, you get my point. They didn't fire Cleveland. Okay, shut up. My point is they would have replaced somebody. You get my point.
Of dwarves that were not dwarves, the multiracial, multi-ethnic, tall people, and one dwarf. And
they should have just made They should have just made like different races of dwarves: black dwarf, white dwarf, Hispanic dwarf, disabled.
This is how we make decisions at the Daily Wire.
She said she watched the movie and hated it. Oh, did she really? I didn't even see that. Damn, you know what? I take that back. What the hell is she doing? She really said that she hated the movie? That's crazy. I didn't even hear that part. If that's true, then I'll take it back. Oh, she admitted that she didn't like Snow White growing up. Oh, yeah. It kind of seems weird to have her then. Okay.
I literally just emailed that to my business partner, Jeremy Boring, and I was like, we should do something like this. And Jeremy's like, okay, we're just going to make Snow White. So we decided that we were going to do a very rushed movie of Snow White, but we're going to do it to all the specs, with music, with singing, with the original storyline in classic fashion that imbibes from the original well of the values.
Who's going to be like the huntsman or whatever? Who's going to be the love interest? You think it's going to be Ben Shapiro? Who's going to kiss Brett Cooper? I'm sure there's a lot of young men that would love to do that.
Specifically because if Disney wants to cede that field to us, we'd be fools not to take it. And we're kind of shocked by the fact that no other studio has done that. I mean, just on a pure market basis. If you have one of the most significant film achievements of all time, one of the most popular movies of all time, and the people who are making the remake of that movie in live action fashion have decided to betray that movie and say out loud, it's not even like a surprise, they're saying out loud, we want to betray this movie, we don't like the original values that a woman is reliant on a man, she's a girl boss who's going to be, I don't know, fighting the witch on her own, and the prince is going to be standing off to the side, if there is a prince at all. And
yeah, I mean, it is weird. Why not just make a new one that's not Snow White at that point, you know?
If she's not a transgender, non-binary, Snow White, whatever, like, it would be idiotic not to go back to, the thing that works and do the thing that works.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really care about doing the thing. If you're going to go with the argument of, like, let's do what works, I think it's a weak argument because different things will work if you experiment differently. I think it's more of just kind of honoring the source material, right? It's not that big of a deal.
Of the thing that clearly is not going to work. And Disney has a horrible habit of doing this. They keep taking some of the greatest IP of all time, and they're still living off the money from that IP, right? I mean, they're putting up on Disney Plus all these placards ahead of Aladdin saying this movie is super offensive. But I saw they didn't take down the movie, right? They still know that we all want to subscribe so that our kids can watch the original Aladdin. So they're making money off of it. But then they'll make the live action Aladdin, make it way worse for a quick money grab. Well,
I didn't see it. I can't speak to that.
If I can essentially grab, if our company can grab the legacy of the original Snow White, then why would we not do that? We should do that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
I mean, let's be real. The real reason is it's a really good time to capitalize on trying to get people to join the Daily Wire. So they're going to do this in the midst of controversy. It's not a bad idea. But that's like the real motivator. It's like we could get more people to come to the Daily Wire and watch our silly chinchilla bluey version. And that's business, baby. You know?
I don't think any of us expected the reaction that came with the Disney version of Snow White. Like, there's certainly been people who have been less enthusiastic about the live action remakes they've done. I'm definitely one of them. And it was very much a case of, okay, here comes another one.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can do a live action remake really well. I mean, just look at Hook. It was done really well. It didn't dishonor the source material. It was just kind of a different take on Peter Pan in an interesting way, and I think a lot of people had loved it. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. If they were I think a lot of it is the effort they put into it. When it comes to modern movies, I don't think that people necessarily have an issue with the inclusivity that's being put in there. Some people will always have an issue with inclusivity because, they're not great. But I think the bigger issue is that they seem to just pump them out without any heart. So they're boring. They seem to be lazy. The scripts suck. And then they throw a bunch of forced representation into them to make them, I don't know, more appealing to idiots that love that. I'm not saying representation is bad. It can be good, but it just seems like no one's putting effort in. Like, people were like, oh, man, there are so many sexists that had a problem with the Star Wars movies. Oh, because there was a female lead. It's like, no, it's because, like, the newer ones kind of sucked. Like, it had nothing to do with the fact that a woman was the lead. I liked the Rey character. Just by episode 8, it just kind of, they seemed to just kill all the characters. Like, so that's really more the issue.
Then they cast Rachel Zegler as Snow White, and you think, okay, well, it's a race swap of the character, and it seems a bit nonsense.
I didn't really think about that. Not for nothing, but like Rachel Zegler, here's the thing. If they didn't tell me that she wasn't white, I wouldn't really have noticed she wasn't white, because she's white. She's a white Hispanic. I don't think that that's a race swap, but I think that Disney thought it was a race swap, and then they were like, yeah, this is a race swap. And people are like, what? Like, who cares if Rachel Zegler... I mean, like, who cares? She's white, That's not a criticism, because nowadays apparently calling somebody white is bad. But she is white, right?
Given
I'm more upset about the dwarves. Make them dwarves. Make them little people.
The nature of the Germanic legend. But okay, fine.
And the name of the movie, and the plot of the movie, and
exactly.
The fact that if you want, like, I don't care about the skin color of the characters, but when the literal line from the movie is "skin as white as snow,"
yeah,
and that's why her name is Snow White, it makes it kind of weird to that.
I mean, I think that she's. I mean, this is a bro. How do you spell her name? Rachel Ziegler? Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't know, dude. To me, this is a white woman, dude. This is one of the whitest women I've ever seen in my life. You know, I've met Italians darker than this woman. You know, I mean, I don't think that really matters. Yeah, I think it's just the every other change and the fact that she hates Snow White. But this woman's white. And what's weird is as I'm saying it, it sounds offensive to call it. Isn't it weird that calling somebody white nowadays sounds offensive? It's not offensive. Like, she's a white Hispanic person, right? Those are, but it's like, it almost feels like I'm saying a bad word. It's like, I'm not, dude. Oh my God.
Like, so why is her name Snow White? I'm confused.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. Oh, fine. Okay. Sure.
And then we had the dwarves, which are no longer dwarves because Peter Dinklage got mad about it, and so we don't have them, and we don't even have the story about true love overcoming all, because it's no longer about that. It's, according to Rachel Zegler, it's about Snow White's quest for power. So. You've lost everything, every aspect of the original movie, and it really just seemed like the perfect storm.
It was. I mean, a lot of the other Disney movies, you've seen them playing around the edges of this, right? What they'll do is they'll do a remake of Beauty and the Beast, and they're not fundamentally undercutting it; they're just making a worse version.
Oh man, I didn't mean to die. I didn't see the Beauty and the Beast remake
of the original, and then they'll be like, and also LeFou is gay, and you're like, okay. Nice. In the original movie, he's a sycophant. He's not gay. I see what you're doing. It's a sop to whatever crowd you think you're appealing to. I don't know who's like, man, I wasn't going to see Beauty and the Beast, but now that LeFou is gay, I'm totally in. I'm not.
Who the fuck is LeFou? What? Lagu? Who's gay? Oh, the clock? Is it the clock? Beauty and the Beast clock name. Cogsworth. Who the fuck is LeFou?
What the logic was on that, but apparently it pleases someone. Okay, fine, it's stupid, but if you want to, all right. Or the Little Mermaid, where it's like, okay, this is a Danish fairy tale, and that is why Ariel has red hair, and we've all seen the memes of how every redhead ends up as a black person in a Disney film.
True.
Don't be a redhead in a Disney film is the message.
Oh, Gaston's buddy is gay. That guy was always gay, right? That's not a hot take. That guy was gay as hell. That guy was Gaston's buddy. That dude's gay as hell. Gaston friend. Oh, this dude's the gayest person in the fucking world, bro. What are you talking about? Not even an insult, bro. What are you talking about? He's gay. He's already gay coded.
But okay, fine. Like, and I can see that you're trolling for the audience hatred, which they've really been doing a lot since the Kathleen Kennedy Star Wars, since the Rose Tico stuff, since the audience reacts badly to a character, and it's because it's the audience is wrong. It's the Principal Skinner thing. It can't be. The kids are. I could be wrong, or the kids must be wrong. And so Disney's really been playing a lot into that, but they hadn't full on just said, you know what, we hate our original movie, like hate it, and we are going to gut that, and we're going to wear its face around like a weird Hannibal Lecter mask, and that's essentially what they pledged to do. And so that's such a great market opening for us to put out something.
No, Papa, he wasn't gay. He just followed a huge, handsome man around and simped for his whole... Yeah. So basically he was Sneeko to Gaston. He was like Sneeko. Yeah, definitely gay.
Competitive. And obviously they got wind of that because now they've completely recast it. They have created really horrible looking...
Did they completely recast recast Snow White? Did they change who the dwarves are? Am I wrong? That's fucking crazy. Is there a way to like find this? Everything we know about Disney so far. I mean, maybe they did. That'd be interesting.
Dwarves who are giant, they're still giant because they had to. I'm assuming they're just pasting CGI over
over the actors, and oh man, yeah.
Oh,
so terrible, by the way.
Is that what they did? They put them over the actors? That's so weird.
Look awful. Like they rushed out that image of the CGI dwarves who are now enormous. So now Snow White.
I'm fine with the dwarves being big. They should just be played by dwarven people. Dwarves.
I don't know. She's
it's like a fucking WoW race. Sorry, dwarves. Yeah.
Gulliver. And like it looks awful, but I think they were forced to. And now they're saying they're delaying it for a year, and they're pretending that it's not about having to recut it and redo it and all the rest of this sort of stuff. So, little public pressure goes a long way. I would hope that Disney starts to learn the lesson. I mean, listen. I love Disney. Right? I grew up on Disney. Disney, like classic Disney,
he loves Disney.
Is my jam. We were annual pass members. Honestly. We were in California for years. My family, my kids, everything. Same thing at Disney World when we ended up moving to Florida. And now I won't subscribe to Disney Plus because of this crap. And I think there are a lot of people who feel the same way.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, well, you and I roughly.
Not really, man. I still love Disney, even though they're annoying as shit. All companies are annoying as shit, you know? So we're going to Disney in like a week. Like, literally, next week is Monday right now. Next week on Tuesday, I'll be in Disney. So, you know what? My wife and I like it. We're literal Disney nerd losers.
The same age, I guess, and we probably grew up in the 90s, and that was that golden era of Disney animation where you got...
You know what I need to do? I think what I need to do is Anthony Padilla was talking about how he wants to do a thing with Disney adults. I think I should put in a good word for myself. I think I should go downstairs with my wife and we should record all of our Disney stuff and be like, we want to go, you know?
Things like Aladdin, you had The Lion King, you
Beauty
had
and the Beast.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, you know, those movies were a big part of people's childhoods. And so now to see them, you know, get tarnished and remade for modern audiences, it's increasing.
Listen, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with remaking something for a modern audience. And I feel like there's two groups of people who don't like these modern day remakes. One group of people are just annoying and wouldn't like any remake regardless. And then the other group of people just go like, this is annoying. You know, we don't care about the remake existing, but we care that it seems like you guys are just pushing it out for money and like forced inclusivity, and it comes off as a virtue signal. And I feel like we need to make sure we parse through those different people, because again, the Hook movie was fantastic, right? That was a remake. It's just that it was done well.
Increasingly demoralizing, and particularly something like Snow White, where it was literally the movie that put Disney on the map as an animation studio. And yeah, to hear Rachel Zegler just say, yeah, this movie sucks, and you know, Prince Charming was a weird, crazy stalker.
Hey, typical man, am I right?
The Babylon Bee's take on this, which is that you see Prince Charming come into frame, and Snow White is on the table, and he goes up to her, and he's about to kiss her, and then he goes, no. And then he just walks away, and that's the end of the movie. She stays dead.
I can't get consent, so I have to stop. I mean, yeah, it's just...
Yeah, I mean, what a terrible lesson, huh? Like, what a terrible thing. I mean, listen, I think it's fair for people to like, oh, you know, she gets consent, right? Because they kiss her, right? They kiss that girl. Do they kiss her awake? Snow White kiss, right? She gets poisoned, and then true love brings her back to life. The kiss planted on Superman's lips is offensive. Is the offensive action. There was actually no kiss in the Grimm Brothers Snow White story. The kiss was spliced into Disney's 1937 Snow White film from the Grimm's tale. It's an interesting concept, though, when it comes to that kiss. Here's the thing about the Snow White kiss, right? They kiss her back to life. She eats a bad apple, and she needs a kiss to wake up. My wife eats a bad apple. She has diarrhea, but this woman needs a kiss. So whatever. What I find interesting is that we're kind of all like, oh my God, this is super inappropriate because there was no consent, which I generally do agree with. But I also feel like people I don't think that they are contextualizing this the right way. And what I mean by that is I feel like most people look at the old Snow White through the lens of being a man when it's not. It's through the lens of being a woman. And like women like that shit. I'm not saying women like non-consensual interaction. I'm saying that like that's like a wish for a woman to get kissed by an attractive, handsome man, right? That will just like take her and whatever and blah blah blah. That's a woman fantasy. It's not like a male fantasy. Well, I mean, I guess it is also a male fantasy, but yeah.
Like I say, it was the perfect storm of just everything bad about modern filmmaking. And so it was an interesting thing for you guys to come along at that time and say, hey, we're just going to do a version that's fair and accurate to the source material.
Yeah, and that's on Jeremy. Jeremy's doing amazing work. I mean, he's really the creative director when it comes to this sort of stuff. And so it's easy for me to say, we should make something. It's another thing to kind of put that on film and make that materialize. And Brett is going to be great for it because she, number one, has the right values. There's never going to be an interview of Brett talking about the evil morality of Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. And so she also happens to be a really talented actress and she can sing. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Right. I saw a comment from her to the effect of,
I am excited.
This is a timeless story and it's excellent.
Let's be real. Snow White's not that good. Like, it was like Bambi. Bambi's really not the old Bambi. It's really not that good. Bambi sucked. Oh, that's terrible. It's not. There's no story. Just a guy walking around. Wow. there's a deer walking around for a couple hours. It's like, okay, like it looks beautiful. Visually, it's stunning, especially when you take into the context that it's all like hand drawn. But the Bambi sucked. And people that are like, no, you're wrong. You're a who nobody likes where there's no Bambi ride in Disney. Nobody's like, my favorite movie was Bambi. You just look at that through rose-colored glasses because when you were a kid, it was all like flashing lights and stuff. Go watch it again. Go watch it right now. It's not that good. It's kind of boring. Now, The Fox and the Hound. You can't get a better story than that. Let's be real. Can't get a better story.
Fairy tale, and I'm just really honored to be playing this character, and I hope I can do it justice. And I thought that is just the perfect thing to say. It's so easy, it's so simple, and yet somehow so many actors fail at just saying that. It's not about putting this modern spin on it. It's not about reading.
I just thought, I guess they're going to hire some dwarves to do this. That'll be cool. I mean, hey, listen, Ben. Hey, they're hiring a minority group. Ben is pretty woke of him, so pretty cool.
Finding this classic story. It's just about, I don't know, having a bit of respect for
I think
material.
that's one of the big things, not just about the creators, at Daily Web, but also the people who were casting in these movies. The reason the star system died, in large part, is because we got too much exposure to what the stars think. I mean, if you look at the original Hollywood really shielded its stars. The idea was that the only thing you ever saw of the stars really was on Oscar night, and also just the stars in the movies. You really didn't know that much about their personal lives. The studios really worked hard to keep that shielded. Mm-hmm. They tried to keep scandals in the closet. The idea was that
we could see, we can kind of see why maybe that wasn't a good thing.
Were people who existed only in your mind and only on the screen, and so they were larger than life. And then we started getting the opinions of these people, like, oh, they're morons, just like my neighbors. I mean, this is like the annoying person.
Yeah, but again, I mean, being more public and open about these people is probably a good thing. For one, like he was saying, there were cover-ups. A lot of them were sexual scandals, which led to the Me Too movement. But I think that more than just that, there was this. It's almost a positive of social media because paparazzi were obsessive and they're still not great. But now, since it's so easy to get access to somebody and their pictures, they just post something on Instagram. It's not as like crazy or taboo or like, whoa. And so it almost gives them a little more privacy. It almost gives celebrities more privacy to have themselves be able to be their own paparazzi. You don't have as many swaths of people following people around anymore. It still happens, of course, but you understand my point. It's not as widespread, which is a good thing because some of the paparazzi are animals. They're crazy.
On Facebook, except she's famous. Like, so she's rich and she's famous and she's good looking and she's whining about American society. I'm not interested in that. You want to destroy the star system. That's an excellent way to do it.
It made them mundane. And it really, like you say, it shed light on like how they're not these magical beings that are more enlightened than the rest of us.
The best example, by the way, Tom Cruise, right? So Tom Cruise, if you look at his career arc, he was a studio star, and then he made the mistake of going public with his private life,
and his height, and we're like, damn.
The home stuff, the Scientology stuff, and he goes through a period in the wilderness where everybody sort of treats him like regular person, and then he realized, I need to stop this, and he stopped it, and now he's a movie star again.
Yeah.
And that's actually the way that you should approach your job if you're a movie star. Be a movie star. No one cares about your political opinions. No one cares about what you have to say about tax policy. Do the thing that people want you to do.
I mean, it is true, to be honest with you. I can't even really name a Hollywood star that has like a particular political opinion that I'm like, oh, it ruins it for me. But I just feel like it does. I just feel like it's like Chris Pratt. He's a little conservative Christian guy, but he's not open about it. So it's cool. Like, I probably disagree with him on some values. I don't care. He's not sitting here making it the number one thing. He's just a dude. But, sometimes, like, shut up. I don't need to hear all your politics. Because if I hear it, I'm probably going to like you less. Because I just don't feel like dealing with it.
To do, and it turns out people will pay you for that.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and that's, I guess, what we've been missing for so long, and hopefully we can get back to that point. I know
that's an interesting point. Does he feel that way about Gina Carano? Probably not, right? Because she was like, she was a little bit of a COVID denier, I think, back during COVID, and she got fired from The Mandalorian, which I think was stupid that they even fired her, but whatever. She sucked on the show anyway, let's be real. And then they jumped onto her and they made some terrible movie nobody watched.
Oh, the studio that's making Snow White is Bentkey, which is like it seems to be like a children's programming arm of like the Daily Wire. So Is this the first of the projects they're going to do? Are they going to do more things like this?
I hope so.
Forward?
I mean, so we're totally looking at a bunch of different films right now. We have 5 original shows that are on BenQ. We have about 150 hours of kids programming. And the pledge that we're making to parents, because all of us are parents who founded the company, the triumvirate, we all have a bunch of young kids. And our pledge
sounds like grooming.
We're not going to make anything that we ourselves would not be comfortable with putting our own kids in front of, and we're not going to have anything on the platform that we wouldn't be pleased to have our own kids watch.
Yeah. So there's not going to be like a cool drag show? Damn. I was thinking like maybe I'll watch it, you know, because when I heard bent key, I'm thinking like, oh, you're like it's bending, like your key is your wiener. You bend your wiener up into your top of your pants when you see an attractive man, but you know that's gay, so you can't tell anybody, you know.
So what that means is that even shows that we're licensing, we're pre-screening every episode of those shows, and if there was something that didn't meet our standards,
doesn't everybody do that?
Out. So bent key really is not political as much as it is just a safe place for kids to be able to watch material that's fun and adventurous and creative and doesn't wreck their childhood. And we're not looking to insert political messages per se. The fact that it's apolitical is the political message. It's you can actually just abide by normal traditional values and not.
I mean, if they if Daily Wire actually does do that, if they actually make like a show that's non-political as instead, because I would expect Daily Wire to try to like siphon in some messages to the kids about how being a liberal is bad, but if they actually just kind of make it just like chill apolitical thing, they might pull a moderate audience just because it's not annoying. You know, not everybody, and which is interesting because a lot of messages, a lot of shows will you know they will talk about, you know, daily stuff. A lot of shows are stories that try to communicate a message to you. So, like, if there's an episode where, you know, somebody eats too many beans and they fart, it's supposed to be a message about not eating too many beans so you don't fart so much. But, you know, if they do pull it off, it might be interesting. It might be something worth checking out.
Be insulted and your values insulted by material created by people who really don't like your values very much. And that's the thing that we keep seeing over and over from kids programming is this attempt to insert these messages. Like, why? Just leave my kids. It's one thing you want to do that to me. I'm an adult. I can choose what I want to watch or I don't want to watch. Right?
Well, you can choose what your kids want to watch and don't want to watch too.
What I don't need is my kid is watching some show on Netflix that I do know is clean. And the next thing that gets fed to them is some show that is a bunch of values that I really don't agree with or values that I don't particularly like.
What is he referring to? Is he talking about like Blue's Clues where they had the drag episode or whatever? That was weird, but
and Disney they can't stop themselves from doing it. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the preview for their new animated film Wish. That's coming out, I think, in November.
I keep seeing the goddamn toys. It's like, dude, release the movie first, right?
Around Thanksgiving, and it seems, again, I'm just talking from the trailer, so maybe the trailer is not a good depiction of what the film will be, but it seems the plot is very, very, very thinly guised. The plot is essentially about how God is bad. And so what it is the king.
Is that what it's about?
And the king grants people's wishes. But he has an apprentice. And the apprentice, who's also learning to use this power of granting people's wishes, finds out that the king is only selectively granting people's wishes.
Jesus.
Picking and choosing which wishes. This is a terrible, terrible thing. God. And she will grant everyone's wishes, which, I mean, you don't have to go very far afield to understand that what that kind of is
stupid, right? Well, I mean, we watched Bruce Almighty. He granted everybody's wishes. Everybody won the lottery. Everybody was angry because they had to split it. Yeah.
God is bad because he said no to you sometimes, and so it'd be better.
Is that what it's actually about, or is Ben Shapiro just making something up? Like, is that actually what the message is, or is Ben just having a poop pants show?
If there were an empowered female character who could get up and make,
I feel like, is that actually what's happening? Because I feel like Ben might not be right. There's a guy who makes wishes, but he only makes your wishes for some people, and Ben is like, this is about God. This is about God, dude. I can't freaking believe it.
Sure,
is that
all
true?
Wishes were granted across the board, leading to what we would call the Bruce Almighty conundrum, which is you can't grant everybody's wish all the time, obviously, but that doesn't seem to matter. So
okay, no, I mean, it's,
hey, what's up?
Well, essentially every movie that they put out over the past year or two seems to have flopped. You know, clearly people.
He's right about most of the plot, but his takeaway is what? Is this supposed to be like what do you call it? An allegory for God? I don't know. Is Wish an allegory? Or God? Is that what you'd call it, an allegory? I can't. It's not even giving me the movie.
Brand now, partly I guess because of the political messaging, partly like the poor writing, and partly just maybe oversaturation in some cases. Like we've seen it with the Marvel movies, like just endless superhero stuff just coming
I think that also with the Marvel movies, you're seeing a lot of the same things, meaning that people liked the Marvel movies at the beginning because they actually liked the characters that were created. And now they've decided that those are not the characters they want to move forward with. I mean, the person that nobody liked at all when it came out was Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was boring because it's just a boring character. I mean, she can do literally everything, and there are no limits on her abilities. The rules of the universe don't apply to her, and that destroys every plot line that you've ever had in the Marvel universe. But
yeah, I mean, here's the thing, because I totally understand why people didn't like Captain Marvel, and I don't either. I didn't even watch it, but it's a woman. You know, why would I watch that? Here's the thing, though. I was thinking about this. It's a little bit of a weird concept, but here's the thing, right? Men and women, if you look at the movies that men and women generally engage with, men tend to engage more with like action-y movies, action-y shows, where the main character is somebody who is either a super badass, or a lot of it, like if you look at Star Wars, I guess, or other things like that, it's the main character is somebody who's not really worth anything. They're very new, they're very young, they have the potential, but they're not realized yet. And then by the end, they have overcome an obstacle and they are now realized. They have now come to fruition. But if you look at a lot of girl movies, from what I see, it seems to be about a woman who's in a world and she's a good woman, but and she's good enough for any guy, but the guy just hasn't realized it yet. And so it seems to be the male fantasy is starting as like an underdog and building yourself. And the woman fantasy seems to be, I'm good enough now. I have value now. I need a man usually to realize it. Now, I don't know if that's biological or socialized, but that is generally what you see people communicating. It is kind of true. Women tend to, that's the historical perspective on men and women. Obviously, we know things are different now when women work, but I think that's the historical perspective. And if you look at princesses, they're good enough. They're looking for a man to sweep her off of her feet, et cetera, et cetera. And then the guy is trying to he's trying to become the prince. And so the reason I bring that up is I wonder if the Captain Marvel was a mixture of that female concept of I'm already good enough, and you need to accept, somebody needs to accept me, or people should appreciate me and accept me more, mixed with the traditional superhero action line where that doesn't work. And it was just kind of missed the mark because of that. It's trying to appeal to that woman's fantasy of women are good enough, somebody needs to realize your value. But for a superhero movie where that doesn't really work very well. So, I don't know. I'm wondering if that has something to do with it.
When you get rid of Robert Downey Jr. and you just replace Robert Downey Jr. with a more diverse person, or because you...
Well, they should have replaced Robert Downey Jr. from that one black guy from Tropic Thunder. He was pretty good. He was the blackest man I've ever seen.
Need a more diverse person. Or when you take Thor and degrade Thor, and now you're going to have female Thor. Or when you...
Well, they've always had a female Thor. There's nothing wrong with making a girl Thor. It's always been part of the comics. I didn't watch the movie. I don't know if it was good or if it was written well, but it's not bad in general to do stuff like that. She-Hulk isn't bad because it's She-Hulk. People were annoyed because it gets a little... I think the people got annoyed with the scene where she's outclassing the actual Hulk, effortlessly. And it's okay, it's kind of annoying that instead of showing us that she's capable, what you're kind of doing is you're almost breaking the Hulk down. Which is something that is interesting. I don't know, maybe this is a weird thing and maybe I'm off the mark on this, but I feel like there are times where in order to establish a female character is strong, she has to beat or embarrass all the male characters around her. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing.
Who was on board for this? I don't even understand the logic of that. If you've got a popular character, the rule in Hollywood typically was you ride that horse until it dies, right? If you got
that's not good.
Indiana Jones, you ride
horse.
Indiana Jones until Indiana Jones is 80, right? Which is what they did.
Which
is what they're doing.
But people don't like that, but
they're not doing that in the Marvel universe. They're actually killing off some of these characters and substituting in their place.
It's a good thing to kill off characters while they're fresh. It immortalizes their memory.
Not somebody who is going to...
Yeah, Marvel has destroyed... I've seen a lot of people talking about how Hulk's character is dead. I heard that, and I guess it's my understanding is it started in Ragnarok, where they just made him a big stupid idiot, whereas before that, he was taken more seriously. It's unfortunate.
mimic a lot of those moves, but something different, something creative, put their own stamp on it. It's like, well, I mean, you can do that, but you have to understand that you're insulting the core audience. Instead of just creating a new character who might actually be popular in their own right, you're living off the legacy of the old character and using it as a sort of jet fuel, but it's not jet fuel. It's actually sawdust in the engine. It actually slows.
I mean, but again, if you're doing it's not like Thor became a woman. I'm not saying, like, in some instances, like, he's not wrong, but when the Thor thing, again, they had a different they had a different person be Thor. It's not like they got rid of the other Thor. So I mean, that is technically making a new character, no?
Those things. People don't like it when they feel insulted. If you take Iron Man, you substitute somebody who's completely different from Iron Man and then call him Iron Man. People don't like that in virtually any context. It doesn't matter who even you're putting in. But they've decided that they have higher priorities.
I mean, if you think about it, bro, Iron Man, what is iron? Fe? Isn't that the symbol for iron? Female? Female? Kind of makes sense to make that a woman.
That make them feel good about themselves, and it's not working.
Well, yeah, we see where it's led, and I think it's the assumption, like you say, that audiences identify with the superhero title, you know, whether it's Iron Man or whether it's Thor or whatever, rather than the character behind it, and by extension, then the actor playing them. And
you know, me personally, when it came to superheroes and stuff, people are like, "Oh, I want to have these cool powers. I want to be able to fly. I want to be able to." Have super strength. I want super speed. I want, you know, I've never really thought about it. I've always been like, oh, you know what? I want to be able to go invisible. I want to be able to freeze time. You know what I'm saying? And I know now that I'm older, I know that's wrong. But as a kid, tell me you didn't have that fantasy of, like, I wish I could freeze everybody in the cafeteria right now. You know? You know what I mean? I don't. Oh man, I thank God that superpowers don't exist, because you give it to one man and it's over. That's it. You give it to one man and you're done. You're going to ruin the world. It doesn't matter what man you give superpowers to. You give any superpower to a man and they're just going to fucking... And the reason I say man is because, like, you would just not give a superpower to a woman. You know what I mean? Like, why would you even do that? Well, you don't have to consider the option of that happening. Where, you know, that's the kind of superpower I want. You know, maybe mind control. Maybe that. Maybe mind control. You know what I mean? But that one makes me uncomfortable. You know, it's one thing to pause time and look at a girl's panties. It's another thing to control their mind. That's fucked up. I mean, they're both fucked up. But I feel like if you go invisible, and this is wrong anyway, it's a hypothetical, but if you're invisible and you're looking at a girl undress, like, that's obviously wrong, but, like, she doesn't really, you know what I mean? It's like, whatever. She doesn't really know what's going on, as long as you're quiet, as long as you don't goon too hard. But then if you, like, mind control her, like, you just took away all of her autonomy. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's fucked up. That's terrible. I wouldn't want that one. I would do you know, nowadays I think I would do teleportation, to be honest with you. I think I would do teleportation. Only because then I could teleport. I don't have to fucking drive anymore. But as a kid, I'm jacking off everywhere. Fucking jacking off here, there, you know. I wouldn't care. Hey, what's going on, my wife? How are you doing, my love?
Feeling that you can just swap out these people, and that attachment will just transfer onto the new person. It
doesn't. Can I just say? I know this is a random thought, but somebody mentioned something in the chat. You know, here's my thing. Gooning. You know, I'm not even gonna get into it.
Work like that. It never did. But yeah, I was going to ask as well, like, obviously Daily Wire now are starting to get into movie production. You know, Snow White is obviously going to be a big one for next year, but you've already done things like Terror on the Prairie, you've done Shut In, you also put out
Run, Hide, Fight.
Run, Hide, Fight. Yeah, I know you didn't make that one,
yeah,
but
we
you got
distributed
it.
that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're starting to.
I wish Daily Wire would pick up Malibu's Most Wanted. That would be awesome.
A bit of an impact with this stuff.
Yeah,
all right, you want to hear what I had to say? Yeah. Okay. You want to hear about the? Okay, listen. Here's what I was going to say. All right, gooning is this new big trend, especially on TikTok. People are talking about it. Oh, gooning. Ha ha ha. If you don't know what it is, you're better off not knowing what it is. But here's my thing. I feel like there are some fake gooners out there. Some of these guys that are like, oh yeah, let's goon, and they're confusing that with the lesser form of gooning, and that is edging. Edging is just kind of when you're taking a little while and you're enjoying yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with enjoying yourself while you're engaging in that particular practice. But that's not gooning. Gooning is almost spiritual. There's a difference between edging for like an hour and like, oh, this feels really good, versus gooning. Because what gooning is it's edging plus goblin. It's edging plus a werewolf mode. Some men have a thing called a werewolf mode, where when you get to that stage in your goonery, it's crazy. Things that would make a lesser man cry or puke become the center of your world for a brief time. It's almost like you're stepping into a foreign vehicle where looking through the windows makes the world look brighter. Garbage turns into foliage, beautiful leaves. Telephone poles turn into magnificent trees. And someone taking a shit is kind of hot. All of a sudden, 2 girls, 1 cup. It's not so bad anymore. Okay? So I think that's just something I really wanted people to understand, where I stand on gooning. So don't say you're a gooner, okay? Unless you've hit that.
A great Arthurian.
Thank you so much for the 10-month sub. Papa, the point of gooning is that it's not brief. You have to understand what I'm saying. It's a lifestyle. You can't just step into the goon. All right, unless you're somebody who at 2 a.m. got the urge. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't stop till 7 a.m. Unless you're that man, you're not really gooning. You're not really gooning it up. Okay? You're not really hitting that goon. Because that's real, brother. That's a real thing. I'm not going to lie. Never to me. But, that's the truth about gooning, dude. You can't, it's like a religion. You know what I mean? Everybody takes a bath, but not everybody gets baptized. You know what I'm saying? And that's what gooning is. I think it needs to be understood that's what we're talking about. This is different. It's different.
Korean series that's going to be coming out next year, the Pendragon Cycle, and that's like our biggest budget thing that we've ever done. That's being filmed right now. I mean, again, our goal is that we're not.
Angie Toasty just gifted 1 membership.
Thank you for the gift of stuff to my wife.
Disney. I mean, Disney's spending $1 billion a year on content. We don't have that kind of budget. But what we can do is
Pussy
things
became
that don't
a
insult
member.
our audience.
Yeah.
And that seems like a pretty good pitch. I mean, honestly, it's funny. When we first started the company, we talked a lot about doing this sort of stuff. Jeremy's chief goal in life was to make this sort of stuff. When we first met and we became friends, he wanted to make Hollywood films. This has always been what he wanted to do.
That seems to be a trend with conservatives wanting to do Hollywood films. You know what I mean?
To Hollywood to make Hollywood films.
Like, all of them are failed actors. Well, I mean, maybe they're just too political for their own good. There's a lot of funny guys out there. There's a lot of really... Listen, I don't mean to get too personal, but there's a lot of funny guys out there. And, I have a buddy. His name is Curly Daddy 101. Very funny, very talented But sometimes I think maybe the politics gets in the way of what they're talking about. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's wrong to have political opinion, but if you want to be an actor, you can't be going around telling us your 2 cents on this war or that war. I feel like it's like, you become apolitical as an actor, or else people start to they start to go, what's this guy all about? What is this guy doing? He's a little bit of a goose,
Writer's room, and be friends with a lot of the stars and all this kind of stuff. And that was never really my goal. My goal was always more political. It's what I do for a living. But one of the things that we quickly realized is that if this ground was going to be ceded, like it was just going to be surrendered, this ground of movies and TV shows that aren't
Hey, thank you so much for the 9-month small gut atheist, dude. I love you too. Love you, Poppy. Love you too.
To insult you, then now there's actually fertile ground. Right, and so that's why the Snow White thing works so perfectly, because it's a perfect.
Jardo Dog just gifted 1 membership.
Thanks, brother.
To them that we're taking ground that has now been surrendered, and when Disney publicly surrenders the ground, it makes it a lot easier for us to say to our audience,
Vigilante
they surrendered the ground, so we're going to take that
member.
ground, as opposed to just putting out a nonpartisan piece of entertainment where Hollywood hasn't really quite ceded the ground publicly. Like we think that they have.
Angie Toasty super chatted $1.99. Conservatives goon.
Exactly. You got a goon.
When they
the conservative goon is a different type of goon, though. When a conservative goons, right? What's happening there is that you have a lot of conservatives that they don't like gay people, right? And so and that's just the truth. That's why they're so homophobic, some of them, because they don't like gay people. And so what happens is when you goon, things that aren't normally attractive to you become attractive. That's kind of the whole process of gooning. And so they goon until women are attractive. That's called the conservative goon, dude. It's crazy.
Publicly abandon the field like that. Or when they make a movie like Lightyear and they decide they're just going to put a lesbian relationship in the middle of Lightyear in a movie for 6-year-olds.
It really wasn't that. It wasn't that big of a deal. Like the Lightyear complaint, it does not matter. The movie Lightyear, the issue with the movie Lightyear wasn't that they had a lesbian couple in it. It was perfectly fine. It wasn't in your face at all. I watched the movie. It was fine. Frankly, I was hoping for a little more. When I heard a lesbian, I was like, oh, in a movie, I'm like, God damn, let's go see that right now. Me and my wife go watch it. The issue with that movie just sucked. It was just the story was terrible. Go watch it. I don't want to spoil the horrible story for you, but it's true.
Like you're saying the quiet part out loud now, and your subtle moves are well observed. We can all see what you're doing, and when you do that,
what are you
it's very
doing?
Easy for me and our company to say, okay, well, here's an alternative.
The Daily Goon.
Right? If you want to see it, go see it. Your prerogative. But here's
Gooner.
something that is not going to be that. And so again, cool. That's sort of the MO at the company. Make great content that also happens to not insult the values of the people who watch it.
I know, it seems like such a simple formula. I said as much in my my video that I made about the 2 Snow White movies essentially going head to head, which isn't happening now because Disney have run
Maybe
away
it will.
from
Depends when you bring out our Snow White.
Yeah, exactly. But it might give you an extra year if you wanted. But I said, the fundamental rule of business is like you give the customers what they're looking for, and if you don't, someone else will.
Fuck the customer.
Like, seems like Disney with all these fairy tales.
Or what'll happen is Daily Wire will make their alternative, and people will be like, wow, this actually kind of sucks by comparison. I guess we'll just have to deal with Disney's bullshit.
Stories, they insist on doing their own modern spin on it, which people are increasingly turning against. It's only a matter of time until someone like the Daily Wire comes in and says, well, okay, we'll do it the way people want.
They're also
making
what they want. I think Disney's making a critical mistake because I think that even if they assume that people of our generation who now have
I agree. They raised parking by $5. Are you fucking kidding me? Jesus Christ.
Our kids to the movies. That our generation is more liberal than our parents' generation, which socially is probably true. Even if you assume that, you can't take the stuff that we grew up with and wreck it. That's insulting to us, right? Even if
Ralph.
we are, in general, to the left of where our parents were at the same time in their life, we're not so far left that we want you to take all the things that we grew up with and just destroy them in front of us. That's not pleasant. It's unpleasant to watch.
Yeah.
Disney has a nasty habit of doing that. I don't know if it's lack of creativity or budgetary concern.
It really it's again, the issue isn't the remakes. It's not the remake destroying it. I feel like Ben would be somebody who would hate a remake even if it was good. You know what I mean? The issue is that it's just lazy writing nowadays instead of like something good.
I know you've talked a lot about the budgetary concerns of trying to use. That's why they're using old IP and sort of gutting it. But it's whatever it is. The first.
I mean, I think what Disney's doing is that they're using old IP and making a fresh movie, and so that like you watch it and they make money off that, and then you're like, this kind of sucked. Let me go watch the original. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's almost smart. I actually, thinking about it, I think Disney's making terrible movies on purpose. I think it's a business strategy. I think that Disney is saying, hey guys, check this out. We're going to make a remake of a particular movie. Here's our terrible remake of Lightyear, we'll say. You're going to go watch it. You're going to watch it. You're probably going to watch it. A good amount of people. I watched it for the lesbian kissing scene. Wasn't that good. Ruined it for me. And then you watch it and you go, that was terrible. Let's watch Toy Story. So now they're double dipping. So all they have to do is remake. Oh, Little Mermaid remake. Oh, people are going to watch it and they're going to go, that's not great. Let's go watch the original. Especially, like, how many people do you know have weird nostalgia boners for old movies? It's kind of genius. So I feel like if they remade the movie and it was good, you'd be like, I don't need that old piece of shit. But now you got a new piece of shit. You're watching it. You're like, this isn't great. And then you go watch the old one. It's kind of a smart business tactic. So that's my conspiracy theory.
Of any business that requires an audience is do not insult your audience.
Yeah. I love insulting my audience.
Their audience.
I think Indiana Jones this year was just the ultimate example of that. A movie that cost over $300 million to make. Absolutely tanked at the box office. No one wanted.
I love this part of it because what's funny about this part is that it makes Ben look stupid if you put the pieces together. Ben was just going on about how they shouldn't be changing movies like fundamentally because people don't like it. And back in the day, they used to have an IP and they used to produce until they burned the IP out. And Ben was phrasing it in a way where like, that's a good thing. And then the critical drinker is like, yeah, they did a bad thing by burning through the Indiana Jones IP, and it's like, oh, okay. So where are we at? What's, you know what I mean? It's like, that's what I'm saying. Ben, I genuinely I kind of like Ben. He's probably my favorite conservative, frankly, except for maybe my mom. She's all right, but he looks silly there. If you put those pieces together, he looks a little bit like a goofy goober. It just seems like Ben is just adamantly against any type of change.
Wanted it. They saw exactly what they were doing with this film. And it was a shameless cash grab of an old IP to try and launch like a new character that no one liked. And the result is they threw away hundreds of millions of dollars. And you do wonder, like, how long can they keep doing things like that?
I think they'd also blown out the Indiana Jones IP over the Shia LaBeouf movie and all the rest of it. I mean, by the time they got to this one, it felt like the IP itself was too tired to sustain the film. I'll be honest with you, I thought that the last 10 minutes of that film was quite lovely. Like the last 10 minutes, it's a very long film, so there's a lot in the middle I didn't quite like. But the last 10 minutes of the film, the sort of notion that he, as a character who lost his son and Marion, they have to get back together, having acknowledged their loss, I thought that was actually kind of a nice human moment. But it's also the sign-off for the character, obviously. And if you're going to sign off the character and you're going to hand it over to someone, then it better be somebody who people like. And this is like the second straight time that they've tried to hand it over.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro wants to go back to the 1950s so bad. Yeah, I don't know why. I really don't. I find it interesting that Ben's like, I really like these old values. If only I could turn the clock to 1948. And it's like, Ben, if you turn the clock back to 1948, if we could do that, we probably would have just stopped. We probably would have just not let Israel established itself, right? That would have. So maybe you should think a little more before you think about that, Ben. Huh? I stand with the Jewish state, by the way, personally. I'm just saying that if conservatives could go back to 1948, they'd be like, oh my God, let's maintain all these oppressive values. If liberals could turn it back to 1948, they'd be like, let's stop this from happening, you know? I would personally go back and I would stop Hitler because I'm a good guy. I'd go back to 1930 something. I'd just let him into art school. I would just let him back into art school, and I would have stopped the whole goddamn thing from the first place. Because that is a big reason why the Jews need a space in the Middle East, is because they're constantly getting oppressed. So I would just take it a step further. But nobody thinks like that. Everybody's like, oh, I would just go back and, I don't know, whatever. I'm just ranting at this point.
Somebody that no one likes.
Yeah.
Or you could just create a new character. Once in a while, it'd be okay.
They've done other things with it. They had the young Indiana Jones Chronicles, like the TV show back in the 90s, and that was pretty good fun.
Yeah.
That allows you to have a.
I think that if River Phoenix hadn't died, they could have gone some places with it, right? In Last Crusade, they
Yep.
lead off with River Phoenix, and you're like, okay, I could see this being a thing.
Yeah.
Right. And then it just obviously.
I guess he passed away. That's
circumstances prevented that, but.
Yeah.
They should just bring him back using AI, dude.
It's been really interesting talking to you about where you see this whole endeavor going. Not just with Snow White, but the whole idea of movie production, TV shows, and all that sort of thing. And I guess setting up a kind of parallel marketplace to what Hollywood's offering, because going back to what I said, it's very much. They're not providing what people want. Well, someone else will.
I think the market is also moving in our direction in the sense that budgets are going to drop.
Yep.
Hollywood's budgets are going to drop. They do not have margins, and they're losing subscribers. And we are a fairly small company.
Yeah, they are, but that's also because of the whole Netflix thing going on, right? So wouldn't that peak back up? Or really, in general, the market is so saturated. I feel like that's probably a big part of it too. The market is so saturated. There's 10 different services you can subscribe to. Of course, margins are going to change. Of course, it's going to change in different ways because the market is changing. So
compared to them, we're a nice-sized company. We do $250 million a year, but we're not Disney, which is doing tens of billions of dollars a year. And so what that means is that for us to be in any way competitive, budgets have to come down on the production of these sorts of things.
Budgets
are going to come down because people ain't going to the movies anymore in the same way they were. They're running out of subscribers that they can chisel, and so that's going to help us quite a lot. And again, they keep seeding all this popular ground. There was a point in time 3 years ago where they basically declared we're not making any more cop shows. Now, if you're talking about staples of TV over the course of all of history, you're talking, especially if you're talking about
they're not making cop shows anymore. Why? I already know why. Because socially, cops are bad. It's okay.
Early TV. So I'm a student of early TV. I wrote an entire book called Primetime Propaganda about the history of the television industry. And if you look at early TV, pretty much everything was a cop procedural or a Western. Those were the two cheapest things to make. A cop procedural. Those are the two things you are not allowed to make in Hollywood now because Westerns are insulting to Native peoples and because cops are inherently bad, corrupt, and racist. And so if you want to give me that, if you want to just give me those two of the most productive lines of television ever devised, I'm happy to take that from you because it turns out people still like watching cop procedurals, which is why CSI ran for literally ever, and people still like watching Westerns, which is why people love Yellowstone, right? So if you want to give me those entire, just keep throwing at me all of your lucrative IP lines, and we're happy to take them.
No, I think so, and honestly, I hope this movie turns out as good as people expect. Because
I'm sure it will, which is not very good. Who expects us to do well? Nobody.
It's got a lot of attention now. When you've got these essentially two exactly the same movies going head to head, potentially now it's going to be different time periods when they come out, but it's still...
Listen, these two Disneys, let's be real, are going head to head in the same way as my political commentary goes head to head with Ben Shapiro. Nobody cares what I have to say. Let's be absolutely real. It's not even going to be it'll be interesting. It's like a social experiment, but I don't think it's going to do very well. It's just going to be, it's a novelty. All right, it's like a funny shot glass. It's like when you go to Pennsylvania and you get a hat that says Intercourse on it because Intercourse Pennsylvania is a thing. It's not really going to be competitive. But okay,
I would predict that we will we may move our release schedule to match Disney's as a marketing tool. I just going to put that out there. You will have a choice, I think, when Disney's movie comes out between Disney's Snow White and our Snow White.
Yeah, but I just hopefully it's I think. A lot of people.
We want it to be good. We want it to be good. We don't want to make crap.
Yeah, not be a gimmick, essentially. We're just doing this because Disney are doing it.
We're not going to go on a backlot somewhere and CGI a bunch of bad animation and put it in the background. That is not what we're here to do.
Yeah, it's not a good idea. My understanding is that when it comes to Disney animation, they kind of push it out to I think they do the highest bidder kind of a thing. They push it out to another company and they do it as quickly as possible, and that's why it looks like shit. Instead of actually taking the time to care about it.
One thing that I think that even our critics acknowledge is that the movies that we've independently produced are very good-looking movies. Yeah. Whether you like them or not, in terms of production value, the production value on Terror on the Prairie is very, very high. The production value on Shut In is very, very high. These look like studio films. Yeah. And so we're very concerned with things looking like they should look. So we don't want our viewers to have to sacrifice, okay, I don't like the values of Disney, so I'm going to watch this really crappy Snow White that looks bad and has bad music and no one can act. I'm not gonna get like Jeremy is really, really firmly focused on quality.
Bro, why don't you just jack this guy off? Why don't you just jack off Jeremy, dude? Jesus Christ. You just whack his dick, dude. Like, Jeremy's fucking awesome, dude.
All turns. He has been since we launched the company, which is why, if you look even at our early podcast, he was like, we're going to have high-def cameras, we're going to build sets, and it's going to look really, really good. And I was like, who cares? It's a podcast. He's like, no, it has to look really, really good. And so his production value has always been one of the core components of the success of the product.
And is there any chance at all you can get Peter Dinklage role as one of the dwarfs? Can you do it?
Who'd he say?
Get Peter Dinklage role as one of the dwarfs. Can you do it? Well, like, honestly, thank you for taking the time to explain some of this stuff and give people a bit of insight into what you're doing with this, because a lot of people are interested in this.
I don't know who's Jeremy. This is Ben Shapiro's fucking
I really appreciate
best
it.
friend.
And shout out to my business partners, Caleb Robinson and really Jeremy Boring.
Yes, thank you so much.
Hard work.
Shout out to Jeremy. Fuck. I needed it. I didn't expect it. I needed it.
To come out and talk about it.
Nice one, man.
I want to come for Jeremy.
That's all I've got for today.
I'm coming,
Go
Jeremy.
away now.
I'm gonna come.
Okay, that was a fine interview. Got a little crazy towards the end there, but you know what? We're just a bunch of goofy goobers.